Okay, so in this lesson, we're going to get an overview of collision. Collision is what's known as a physically modeled synth, which basically means that it's attempting to recreate actual instruments via synthesis. What instruments? Well, it's going for a tuned percussive sound, kind of like a marimba. In this video, we're going to get an overview of how collision functions, mainly its most important areas, including the excitator and resonators 1 and 2. So let's dive in. So I'm going to put collision on a track. Now collision has three main sections that you can immediately notice. We have the excitator section, then its resonator section, number 1, and its resonator 2. Then there are two other sections which are a little more optional in terms of using them. There's an LFO section with 2 LFOs, and then a MIDI section. I'll be explaining these shortly. So let's look at the mallet area here. This is where you have your first stage of volume and tone controls. Then we have a noise section right here, which is an independent oscillator with its own envelope and filter. So right now you're hearing noise, but also with a tuned element to it, right? That tuned element is coming from the first resonator, which is currently set to a beam. You can go through here and try different sounds. And you can adjust whatever sound you choose here quite drastically with the decay and material sliders here. Or you can use this XY yellow circle here. All right, if we want to turn on our second resonator, we need to click here. And now we can mix in a totally different sound altogether. So right here we have a string, and now we have here a beam. Let's try tube. Cool, so two different sounds mixing together. And both resonators have their own independent tuning and pitch envelope controls as well. Okay, let's take a quick look at the LFO tab here. As you might expect, we have 2 LFOs here, and they could be applied to various parameters within collision. And finally, there's a MIDI tab. This is where you can use incoming MIDI messages to adjust the sound of collision. We have the usual suspects of pitch bend, mod wheel, and aftertouch, which are found on most MIDI controllers, and you can use them to affect different things in collision to different amounts. Okay, so that was a brief crash course in collision. We learned that it's a physically modeled synth, specifically modeled on tuned percussive instruments like marimbas, etc. We got an overview of the most important 3 areas, the excitator and the 2 resonators. And we also briefly looked at the LFO section and the MIDI area.